Welcome to the Outlander Unhinged podcast, where we talk deep dives, wild theories, and the heart of Outlander. I'm Doreen.
And I'm Jenny.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of Outlander Unhinged podcast. We're so happy you're here. Today's topic is going to be focused on storylines in Book 9 that we don't think will be included in Season 8, so be prepared for some spoilers. Jenny, do you want to introduce the actual topic?
Today's episode is Outlander Season 8 and the Characters Left Behind, Part 1. We're going to talk about the Cloundtrees.
Ooh, I love the Cloundtrees.
I'm so excited.
I am too. This episode, I think for us, I don't want to speak for both of us, but we kind of wanted to start this series to give insight to book characters and storylines that probably aren't going to make it into Season 8. And for show watchers, you'll just never really learn about these characters, and that makes us feel sad. So we wanted to find a way to bring them to life for you. I don't think we've seen a casting for anyone but the Cunninghams, right?
No, and it's funny because yesterday I was listening to Snow and Ashes, and I got to a part about Amy Higgins. Ooh. And I wanted to look something up. So I'm Googling, I'm on that Outlander wiki page. I know it's not always accurate, but I forgot that she had been in season 6? And I was like, oh my God, is she coming back? And then I'm like, oh, you're an idiot. No. So yeah, we've seen nothing other than, what is it? Amaranthus, Lord John, the Cunninghams.
And then we know Marcelly and Fergus are coming back.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I know that they said if it doesn't have to do with Claire and Jamie, it's going to be cut. I feel like this is has to do with Claire and Jamie. And yes, we will prove why by the end of this.
Okay, so like Jenny said, today we're starting out with the Cloundtrees. If you want to read about them, they're in Book 9, starting in Chapter 54. I think we both reread the chapter to refresh ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So, the Cloundtrees are a mixed native family that live close to the ridge on Cherokee land. The chapter basically just starts out with Jamie and Claire back on the ridge in the new big house. Did you like the new big house in the clips for Season 8? Do you think it looks accurate?
What I pictured in my mind is completely different.
Me too. Okay. Just we'll touch back to that. So anyways, Jamie and Claire, they're at the big house. They're woken up in the middle of the night by a young girl named Agnes looking for help for her mother, who she says is having a difficult birth. Jamie and Claire don't know the girl, but she says that she has heard about Claire being a healer and that's why she came. So Claire's a bit anxious. You know, they're crossing into Cherokee land. They arrive at the cottage and they meet Agnes's cranky ass stepfather and her mom, Susanna, who is delivering twin babies. Upon examination, Claire is able to determine, I think, that the babies were tangled and that she's going to need to have to perform a C-section. She leaves the decision up to the woman and she confirms to her, listen, you will likely die if I go ahead with this surgery, so it's up to you. And the woman says, yes, save the babies, not me. So right before Claire cuts into her, miraculously somehow the first baby comes out naturally and she's fine. The second baby comes out and she is born stillborn. Now, in this moment, Jamie and Claire are particularly obviously reminded of Faith. It's an emotional moment. And Claire takes the moment and she takes the baby and she's trying desperately to resuscitate her. And all of a sudden she starts having these flashes of remembering Roger talking about McEwen and this blue light healing power and about her being Faith by Master Raymond. Jamie puts his hand on Claire's shoulder and then she brings this child back to life using her blue light healing power. Now, after all this, they walk outside and Jamie and Claire are talking and Claire says to him, what color is my hair? And Jamie replies that it is the color of moonlight. So in a larger sense, Jenny and I, and we're going to dive into that, we really think this is the first moment that Claire is recognizing that her blue light healing power is an actual thing. So Jenny and I were talking about this before the episode, but a lot of people, when talking about this scene, didn't even necessarily think that this baby survived. And a lot of them thought that we didn't really think correctly in saying that Claire was using a blue light power. So
right.
I guess I kind of want to start with what stood out the most to you, where in that moment you thought, oh, this is Claire finally realizing she has power. What?
Um,
No doubt she saved this baby using that blue light, not conventional medicine.
so things I wish I could do is remember what I thought the first time I read it. So now I've
Mm.
done 2 read throughs of Bees. One was recently. The first time was probably 2024, and I was in the car moving back and forth between here and Florida. So the reread today really sits differently with me than the read I did 2 months ago. Do you want to go into that here, or do you want to go into a different question?
I want to go into that here. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the thing
So,
is what I'm trying to accomplish, and I think maybe this is a good point for us to talk about what this podcast is for us. And for me, it is to give everyone the experience of how we are reading the books and
yes.
the magic and what we are picking out of these moments. If you read this chapter on a surface level, you could think, oh, Claire went and she saved this baby's life. But when you really read the lines, and I have some highlighted in my book and I'll
Mm-hmm.
point them out, you realize the magic. And I think the show has done an awful job of capturing the magical elements. And I
Agreed.
think for us, this podcast is for us to tell people this is magic.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
And it's interesting because I still, when you're thinking about the show and the book in general, we are still in a book that is considered science fiction. Romance fiction, romance science
Romanticy.
fiction.
Yeah.
So re-listening to it for this episode, the things that stuck out with me, when she delivers the first baby, everything is fine. The second baby comes and it's breached. So there's one foot hanging out. And Claire sees that the leg is blue. And she says to herself, the baby's died. And here's what I took away from listening to it yesterday. That's odd to me that someone who goes so over the top with trying to bring people back, that she made a decision right at that moment to determine the baby was dead. And I thought that was interesting. So the baby gets delivered, hands the baby over to Jamie. She's still dealing with mom. She's telling, what's the daughter's name again?
Agnes.
Agnes, I need you to massage your mom's belly. We have to get the placenta out. There's things that she's still doing to help the mother. And I feel like in that moment, like, again, perfect world, you'd have everybody who knows exactly what to do in that moment. She handed the baby, I guess, was it to Jamie at that moment?
Yeah, I think so. Yes,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
do remember him kneeling at the hearth, baby
To
on the
keep the
floor.
baby warm, yes.
Yeah. So this is what I took away today. She catches Jamie's eye. He's crying. They're both thinking in that moment about faith. And then she has the baby in her hand. So after giving birth, like, especially to a baby that's blue, you would rub the baby. You would try to get like some sort of life. I don't know that. I found it odd that she immediately decided that the baby wasn't viable and handed it off. Now, she gets the baby back, and I had to go back and listen to the whole episode the chapter with Roger and McEwen. And then I went down a whole freaking rabbit hole. So here's what I think is happening in this reread. I think there's a collective consciousness happening. And what she's describing is her hand on the baby's back. Now, CPR is not done on the back. Obviously, it's done on the chest. Pediatric CPR wasn't a thing until, like a formal thing, until the 80s. Claire did probably get taught CPR in medical school because we see her performing mouth to mouth on Amy Higgins' son. He gets kind of overdosed with ether. She, gives him mouth to mouth. He comes back. So I found it odd that she didn't do that immediately for the baby. CPR was still done, but there weren't guidelines in place specifically for a baby.
But do you think that it was because of her own trauma and that she was worried about not saving the mother and getting the placenta out and having a situation where the mother dies?
Yep. I think there's a whole bunch of things going on in that moment. Not enough help. Her having faith on the mind, her trying to worry about Jamie. I think there's a bunch of things happening, but my initial thing would be to deliver the baby, cover the baby, warm it up. There's a scale that's used. It's called APGAR. Claire does use that. I think it's when teaching. It could have been when maybe delivering one of Marcelly's babies. It's just like a thing you go through to see if the baby is awake and pulse rate and breathing and all of that. But whatever. So I think what's happening here is Claire has the baby and she has her fingers on the back of the baby and she's tapping. And that's what McEwen did to
Roger.
Buck.
Buck,
No, to
sorry.
Buck.
Yes.
That's okay. So, and then Roger sitting in that room said he could feel it. And all of a sudden, it was him, McEwen, and Buck all beating together at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that there's some sort of meditation going on that using this blue light power is tapping into a collective consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So this ties in. This is why I always say that we are a hive mind, because we always get to the same conclusions, just different ways. I have always said that I view the space between as where the power is and that you can access it. I think when I say the space between, people think, oh, when you travel through the stones, you're going to this place and there's caves and waterfalls. And that's the space between is a void. It is an energy field that you're traveling through or tapping into. And I think Jamie can tap into it in his mind. That's where he gets his visions. That's where he's able to see Bree and the kids in the future and all of these things. That's where the comp is going when he's inside the rat's minds in the space between. Okay. So
I have that written here.
Okay. Oh, see, look. So the reason I think the Cloundtrees are so significant and why this moment is so significant is because everything ties back to the Native Americans and the 7-generation curse and prophecy. I didn't mean to call it a curse. And why do you think that the person who tells Claire she's going to come into her full white hair power was a Native woman? And the first time Claire recognizes and is able to tap in and fully use her blue light healing power is when she is healing the next generation of Native children. Okay? Right. So you have to wonder if this power is tied to that. Why did Master Raymond help all of the Montauk groups travel? There is a bigger connection than just, we're studying the Revolutionary War and the Civil War and slavery and the Native Americans and indigenous cultures. There's so much more going on because all of the magic of the land is tied to indigenous people. And that's true in full, not just in this fictional world. And I just thought it is so significant that this is the moment that Claire was finally able to tap into that. So when and Jamie's touching her shoulder again.
So I wanted to talk about that too. The first person that's truly holding the baby, am I wrong, is Jamie.
But also
I think there's a transfer of power, and I know that that's where you're going. So I think the two of them touching and him specifically being with the baby before she takes it back from him, I do think that there's a reason for that.
When he gives her back the baby, he puts his hand on her shoulder. So the first time we see, I call them amplifiers, and I think it's a collective. So they're all able to access the space between. And I think the closer that Jamie is getting to having a blue aura and him being changed and resurrected into something different is his powers becoming stronger and him and Claire's powers becoming stronger together. Because if again, they're an example of, in quantum physics, I've talked to you about quantum entanglement and them being two particles that are drawn together. So the first time we see this, when Master Raymond is healing Claire, it's very different in the books than the show. He's physically telling her to call out to Jamie and so in that moment, Claire is in her mind going to a place to tap into Jamie. So what's the collective there? Master Raymond, Jamie, and Claire. Okay?
Right.
So the first time, arguably, that Claire sees a flicker of her own blue light is when she's trying to heal Malva and Malva's baby. But there's no one else there with her for her to tap into. Okay.
I actually have that written.
Okay, so then when the what you just brought up with McEwen and Roger, you've got
Mm-hmm.
three powerful travelers. You've got McEwen, Roger, and you've got
Buck.
Buck. I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. So that's three people. So that's another three collective, like you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about. All three people are able to access the space between.
And that goes
So
with the Trinity. So not to throw in the religious part,
yes,
but is that where she's going?
I don't know, because then when you get to this scene, so we've got Jamie and Claire. Who's the
Mm-hmm.
third? Who's the third?
So
I
here's
don't.
the thing. I just thought of this as you were talking about it. Is it a coincidence that it's a girl and it's Faith? And what do they name? What do they name the baby? Do
I
we
don't
know?
know.
I
I
can't
really don't
remember.
know. I don't remember
I'm gonna have
because
to look that up.
even when
All
Agnes
right, I'm
comes
thinking.
back later, she just refers to her as
Mhm.
her sister. My sister has
Okay, so
grown.
interesting though. But is there something to this conscious collectiveness, whatever you want to call it? Because again, I started to go back to that concept that I talked about with Dr. Wayne Dyer and getting in the gap. And I feel like in that moment, they were in the gap and they were meditating and it produced a blue light.
Yes.
And
So
I think it's Faith that is the third person in that. Now I know she's not there physically, but is that bond that strong?
well, okay, so also in this book, and we're going to do an entire episode on this character, so we're not going to expand on it too far here. But there is a character that is, again, a Mohawk elder, and he is referred to as the Sachem.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that Claire has a ghost, baby Faith, traveling with her. So maybe in the moments that Claire needs that, she can tap into Faith
She
as
could pull
well.
from it. So
Right.
does that have, could it be that in season 7 with this whole thing that with Faith, now it doesn't happen that way in the books, but do you think there's maybe some sort of a connection there that they're trying to make,
No, I don't see the show.
being
If
that
the
smart?
show is going to tap into the magic, they would have had to start a long time ago. And I
Yes,
realized
agreed.
they weren't going to when they. So, for those who have not read the book, in season 7, when you see Buck and Roger travel back
Mhm.
and he develops that heart condition, they go to see Galus. In the show, they go to visit a doctor. I mean, in the
No,
books,
you got
they
it
go.
backwards.
Yeah, in the book, they go to visit a Dr. McEwen who tells
Mm-hmm.
Roger that he is a time traveler. He left his family. He's a healer. He has the blue light. And that's the moment Jenny was talking about, that he's trying to regulate Buck's heartbeat, and they're all in this collective and they can all feel the same heartbeat. And this is very relevant too, because in book 9, Brianna develops an arrhythmia as well, and she cannot get her heartbeat. And I'm very interested to see how that's going to be handled. And
That's interesting.
I know that's a
I'm
parallel
not.
that we can dig into, but so okay. So then again, later in this book, Jamie goes up in King's Mountain, arguably dies, and there's three people. Ian,
Mm-hmm.
Roger, and Claire. They all are touching Claire. She's able to use the blue light, and she completely brings Jamie back. So in that moment, you have to wonder if it's three, if it's a triad, then let's say Ian doesn't have any power, then it would it but
Right.
or maybe Ian does and she has to use that because Jamie's deceased. So
I
it's
do think in that last reread that I did, not last night, the one a month ago, I do think Ian has something. And there
right.
has to be a reason why he was accepted by the Mohawks and taken in. So they must have seen something as well to make him be one of them.
And I just don't understand why this is the moment that Claire comes into recognizing her power. I don't think she comes into her full power until King's Mountain. But I think
Right.
this is the
Agreed.
first stage where she actually is recognizing it and she
Mm-hmm.
physically sees it. And there's a line in the book. Let me read this to you. Hold on. And it says she's talking about the heartbeat, knowledge of life. She's tapping, and then all of a sudden she thinks of Malva. That's interesting. I saw her in my
Yes.
mind's eye, dead in the garden, and the smell of blood and scent of birth. The tiny boy had taken from her body, barely alive. There was a blue spark in my hands that dwindled and died. A blue spark. I saw it and looked deep into it, willing it to stay, holding it safe in the palms of my hands. Blah, 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 blah. And then she says, I wrote on here, this is the moment she uses her blue light. She is resurrecting this baby using her blue light power. Why could she not use it to save Malva's baby, but could use it to save this baby? And that
This
was my
baby.
question. So,
So I
is it about
here's what
the indigenous Native American connection?
you know that I honestly I don't know. When re-listening even this morning, because I went through it again and again, like I said, the one thing that stuck out to me is that there was no attempt by Claire initially. Now, I did go down a path of, again, is CPR, and I like it's probably not this deep, but this is where I went. Is this
Okay.
another time-born artifact? So
Oh,
what McEwen was doing with Buck, he
right.
was doing, some of you, I don't know if you've ever heard of tapping. Tapping is a technique where it helps regulate your nervous system. So if
That's what
you
she
feel as
was
if you're
doing.
right, so she's tapping. So did
Right.
McEwen. McEwen used it as to get Buck's heart rate regulated. It traveled into Roger, and Roger knew it was happening to the doctor. People were around them witnessing this in the doctor's waiting room or whatever. They weren't a part of it, but the three of them were. So he's doing tapping. And like I said, it's a technique to use to get yourself regulated.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting. So that's something that people use today. So again, did he have this, and it's not even a power, did he know this technique in order to get them collectively meditating to use the tapping, because tapping is considered meditation as well? And is
Right.
that now something that Claire has remembered? So I was thinking of it more like not magical. I was thinking of it more clinical. So
Okay.
was what Claire was doing, because this is a newborn. So again, CPR is done on the chest, not on the back, but was her tapping forceful enough and her warming the baby with her body and leaving the baby by the fire? Would that have been enough for the baby to be stimulated and awake? Like I said, this scale,
Mm.
it's called an APGAR. It's appearance, it's pulse, it's grimace, it's airway, and it's respirations. I had to look it up. It's been years since I've used it, but
I
it's just a
just
way to immediately. You don't think so? It's just a
no.
route I went down.
I mean,
It,
I,
it
I, I mean, I think that when she says you could be onto something because she says my finger tapping slow and sure.
yes. So I
I
do
know that there
think
were
that that's
two of us.
meditation.
She said, in some enormity of time, I knew that there were two of us in that sound, a sharing of the beat of a heart, the knowledge of
Right.
life, my finger tapping slow and sure. So I almost looked at it because she says right before it, there were more sounds in the room now, soft voices,
Mhm.
crackling log. Jamie's hand solid on my shoulder. I heard it all and
Yep.
felt it all, but it was removed from me, happening in another world. All I
Hmm.
was the sound of a heartbeat. In some enormity of
Yep.
time, I knew there were two of us. So I think she's like with Jamie's hand on her shoulder. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
yes, she could be using that, but she's making a conscious moment
Oh,
of seeing
a
the
hundred
blue in her
percent.
hand. So I think it might be a
Yes.
combination of her trying to, that same moment, regulating the heartbeat, like you're saying, of Buck and Roger, and her and Jamie and the baby are in that bubble, and she's basically trying to get the baby's heartbeat on her heartbeat and get it started.
Correct.
But the blue light
Correct.
and Jamie's power is kind of amplifying that. And
Absolutely. Like I am not, like I truly do believe in a collective consciousness when it comes to things like that. But I also am a big believer in science as well. But I think the two of them can be used as one. And I think this might just be an enormous example because I
Mm-hmm.
do think she was pulling from Jamie. And I do think Jamie handling the baby has significance to it.
Well, and even the fact that Diana mentions again, I know I keep saying it, I'm a broken record, but he put his hand on her shoulder. And
Right.
you have to start
Right.
thinking of all of the moments in the books where we see these kind of powers. So in the space between novella, we see Master Raymond touch the comp's shoulder, and as a result, he's able to take them somewhere where people can physically see
Yes.
them, but they have no idea what's going on and can't hear them in the moment
Okay.
that
So
you are
here's the question.
okay.
Go ahead. Finish your sentence. Finish your
I was gonna say,
sentence.
and it's the same thing in the moment with Buck McEwen. All the people are there, you said, in the waiting room,
Right.
but nobody can hear it. Same thing, all that's happening around Claire, but they're in their own little world. So they're going into a space between that only they can access. It's almost if you ever watch those superhero shows and they press pause and everybody pauses and they do all these things in the moment, then they unpause and
Right.
nobody ever
Yeah.
knew it happened. That's kind of the
It
space
happened. Yep.
between. That's
Okay. So here's my question with that. And now this is like, I feel like for me, something's clearing up. I can't really put my finger on it. So when we talked about the space between months ago, you and I had a discussion over is the space between, for me, it was getting in the gap. For you, it's the harnessing of the power. And I completely understand that. So here's my question with this. I agree that they are like in this bubble, and whatever three are
mm-hmm.
activating this power is what's happening. And it revives people or is able to heal. Why do you think when traveling, it's such a devastating, scary thing?
Well, because
So when they like everybody talks about yelling, screaming, sounds of war, it's very violent, and then they're put into this new place. What makes that moment different from a moment like this where it's used for good in resuscitating an infant?
well, I guess first thing is not everybody hears horrible sounds because the comp hears singing and people celebrating.
True.
And
True.
I think to me, yes, the way you explain the space between, but I think it's a combination of what both of us think. I don't think it's a physical place, but I do think it's something you access
Right.
and you also travel through. I also think it's purgatory.
Experience.
Yes, I also think it's
Agreed.
purgatory. It's almost like a wormhole. That's kind of how you have to think of it. When you're traveling through it or you're entering it, you can go to different. Okay, so say we're on this planet and we want to go to this planet over here and we have to get there somehow. There has to be, is it
Right.
a wormhole, is it a black hole, what you're going through. This planet may be moving 2 minutes for us is 200 years over there and vice versa.
Right.
This planet could be evolving totally different, and I think when you're traveling through or you're accessing this space, you're going to maybe different wormholes, different levels, different places. So you can get trapped in there, you can go to the wrong place, your mind may not be strong enough. It's a collective thing. In So we know when Roger, for example, the first time tries to go through, it's
Right.
horrible. He gets kicked out, he gets burned because he's
Right.
thinking of his father and he's trying to go somewhere where he already exists. So I think a lot of it has to do with the rules and parameters of how you access it. So if you're using
Okay.
it, we talk a lot about how there's a lot of religious themes. So good, bad, evil. Is
Mm-hmm.
Master Raymond the devil and God? I think that's the same thing, in my opinion. Okay, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to access this power, your power in that space for good and to revive someone, if it's predestined and there's a bigger purpose of why that child would be saved, you're on a surface level accessing it, but you're not physically. You have to get on, in my mind, a ley line where it's such a power, like this, an insurgence of power. And that's what I'm talking about with Native American lands and the rituals that they perform, that maybe the power sources are stronger there, or the ley lines are stronger there, and that's why they settle there. I don't know. It's a working thought, because you know how I feel about the ley
Yeah,
lines. And
right.
the
Like
stones, I
I
think, are placed to mark the
yeah,
areas where the ley lines are the strongest. So
we're
maybe
stronger.
that's why Raymond's able to put him in the comp in that bubble, because they're right there next to a really strong ley line. But when
I
I don't
I guess the
know.
part that I'm trying to figure out is if as far as we know, it's only the comps that hears the singing. We know that Claire has
True.
described it as she hears war.
Mm-hmm.
Roger and Brianna in later books, I don't remember specifically, but I do remember it being very hard for them.
Maybe they're hearing
Talking
the
about that it was,
events that they're traveling through the times. Or
it could be.
maybe they're hearing the sounds of all the,
Yeah.
so if there's parallels, if we've talked about this before, if there's parallel universes and they're all existing on these timelines in different
Mhm.
universes, maybe all of their collective, their own minds, their own experiences, they're hearing all of that, so that they can, because if they're breaking apart and they have to come back together as that same version of themselves, maybe it's their
Mhm.
experiences that they've been through. Like if Claire has traveled so many times, maybe she's hearing all of her other experiences. Maybe she's hearing other people
Right.
trapped there. I don't know. I go back and forth.
Yeah.
I
So
depending
that
on the day, I'll have a different thought of what that
I
is.
I told you, like from the first time reading these, this is now the third time reading this specific storyline, like in like really concentrating. And
Mm-hmm.
I could go very clinical with what's happening here, but I also do understand that there is this collective consciousness with the story with Roger and Buck and with Jamie and Claire and the baby here. And again, I can't put my
Yeah.
finger on what this the separation is for me and how to process like the space between and traveling versus the space between where I see as meditation.
Yeah, but
So I
it's
don't
kind of
I
the
have to
same.
work on that.
It's kind of the same thing. It's just it's not a physical form. So, for example, everyone always says Jamie's not a time traveler, but I think Jamie's a time traveler. Not in the sense that his physical form goes to other
Right.
places, but we see him go to sleep, and then and by the way, quantum physics believes that when you go to sleep, you are going to another version of yourself in a parallel universe.
Okay.
They're proving that.
Okay.
Okay? I know everybody is so sick of hearing me talk about quantum physics, but I'm obsessed with it. But Jamie goes to sleep, and he is able to have a vision of Jemmy and Mandy at
Right.
Lallybroch way, 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 way in the future. What would you call that? He's
Right.
accessing the space between, just not physically, just in his
Right.
mind.
But mentally.
Yeah. So
I'm
I don't
interested to find
I don't know.
will she give an explanation for this? You know, is it something that she can explain?
I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
Like,
So, okay.
yeah.
I think I've talked to you about this before. And one of the interesting things, so again about the Cloundtrees, just so everybody knows, they come back a couple more times in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's the new, in season 8, there's this new person that's being introduced, Captain Cunningham. He's basically going to raise a militia against
Mm-hmm.
Jamie, and it's a whole thing. But when it's very interesting, because where Cunningham lives on the ridge is right next to all of the men that Jamie was in prison at Ardsmuir with, who would arguably be his
Mm-hmm.
most loyal men. And not one of them come to Jamie and tell him that this militia is being formed, whether they don't know or not. The person that comes during another violent birth, when Claire and Jamie are giving birth to I think the calf is breech, right? And it's a
Yeah.
whole thing. And
Yep.
the
That's
stepfather,
a
the Cloud
thing, though.
Tree, yeah, he comes, and he is the one who warns Jamie about Cunningham, and then he allows Jamie to write him a letter to take back to the tribal leader to have them side with Jamie and help him fight the rebellion. And then also their
Right.
daughter, Agnes, she gets pregnant with some, I don't, do we even know which soldier?
No, it's one of two soldiers. And, you know, for the moments here, like, and this was just like a fleeting thought, I was like, what if it's freaking Cunningham's? Like, I don't know.
We
And
don't
maybe
know.
that's why the mother was like, hey, with us, we don't know.
Right. So, and then
So, yeah.
Elsbeth, who you guys will, is Captain Cunningham's mother. She has a very interesting relationship with Claire. So I'll be interested to see how season 8 plays that out. But they go back. There's a whole thing. He gets injured in a landslide. She decides to bring him back to Europe, and they bring Agnes Cloudtree, pregnant, back with them. Okay. So I've talked about this with Jenny before. We watched this show. It's Yellowstone 1923, 1883. I don't know if any of you have watched it. A very prevalent theme. Go ahead and say it, Spencer.
Mhm.
Censor button.
I was just in my mind going back to Spencer. It's all good. If you have not seen it, all you have to do is like Google Spencer Dutton. Oh my God. Yeah,
Welcome.
that's all I'll say.
For who's
Just do
Jamie
yourself that.
Fraser. That's all I'm going to say. So, but anyways,
Exactly.
one of the super prevalent things in that is a real life premonition, which is an indigenous Native American belief that there is something that is referred to as the 7 generations prophecy, that in 7 generations time, the natives are going to have to rise back up and teach basically the white man how to take care of the land because they destroy the planet. That is an extremely vague
Right.
description of this prophecy. And I certainly am not trying to speak on behalf of Native American beliefs, so please know that I approach this with delicacy. So in 1883, that's where it starts. It's basically that the 7 generations of Native Americans, like as they're being born, it will be so that they can come back to the land. And the way that, spoiler alert, it all ends is that at the 7th generation, they get back the land from this family, the Duttons, is the Yellowstone family. So I started applying that and thinking about that with regards to Outlander because I went crazy and I learned all about this prophecy and I started thinking about the timelines and I'm like, this is the same period of time once we start getting in the 1800s.
Yep.
So what if the power of these children that are being born, like even Agnes's child, the baby that Claire saved, and Master Raymond helping the Montauk Five, what if all of this is leading to the 7 generation prophecy? I went crazy with that.
No, look,
So,
here's the thing. Of all of the people that Master Raymond, of all of the things that happened in history, he chose these men to try to fix their path. He didn't choose like people that had been slaves. He didn't choose different moments in history. He didn't go back to World War II. He specifically chose these individuals to try to change. So I think it's absolutely onto something.
right. And so, and then again, when you start thinking, okay, why the first time Claire was able to walk with a ghost, was it Ottertooth and the
Mm-hmm.
message he gave her? Why the first time that she's able to use her blue light healing power, is it on the Cherokee land and she's saving a Cherokee baby? Why is the person that saves Jamie from the militia a
Right.
native? That
Right.
and if Claire hadn't, it's a chain of events, because if Claire hadn't saved the baby, do you think he would have felt any kind of loyalty to come and tell
No,
Jamie?
not at all. Not at all.
And
So
then
yeah, there's
yeah,
God.
and then you start thinking about the Sachem, which I know we're going to do a separate episode on him, and he's telling Claire that Frank's walking with Jamie, Faith's walking with her, Ian's walking with Jenny. Again, that's interesting because that's 3 ghosts he's able to see,
Right.
and they're walking with them. So what does that all mean?
I don't know. And I was sitting here and listening, but I was like, look, there's been multiple breech births through this series. Like one of Jenny's one
Oh
baby
yeah.
was breech. So we've got the calf that's breech. Now tell me if I'm wrong. The very first, when Claire first gets to Castle Leoch, she also delivers a breech horse. Do you remember with old Alec and Jamie? She walks into the barn and
Oh my gosh, that's right.
her hands were so small she could fit inside, so she delivers. So this is like 4. So I looked up specifically Native American. And its spiritual significance. Birth is significant. Birth is a significant ceremony of passage from the spirit world to the physical world, and breech births can be seen as marking an extraordinary individual. Clearly, that's an extraordinary individual because the baby
Yeah.
lived. Strength and determination. Cultures associate breech babies with resilience and strong will, sometimes leading to roles as shamans, medicine people. What if this child is related to one of the Montauk Five?
The child could be the start of the Montauk Five. That's what I'm
What if it's
saying.
Ottertooth?
It could be. We don't know.
Let me see.
That's what I'm saying is that there has to be a connection in some
What do you
way
remember?
to
What tribe was he with? The father.
Cherokee.
Cherokee. All right, hold on.
But his wife was not native.
Right.
So the children are mixed. So but again, Master Raymond is said to be everybody's ancestor. He's not native, so maybe he had children with a native woman.
Right.
We just don't know, and I don't know even where I'm necessarily going with it. But I think this is a bigger conversation too, and I don't think you and I shy away from having hard conversations. But
No.
this is a topic. I feel some kind of way about these characters being left out because they are very significant characters, in my opinion.
Especially for like development of other characters around them.
Correct. And it's the same thing they did to Joe Abernathy. And I find it puzzling why these characters, and I feel like I'm saying something pretty controversial right now. Forgive me if you want me to cut it, I will.
No, not at all. Not at
all.
But
why? Why did they cut a black character who had a huge role to play, and reduce him and his son and reduce him? Because listen, there's huge aspects to them leaving him in charge of their house, their bank statement, all of these things. First of all, that puts him in such a yes, but it puts him in a peculiarly what's the word?
Peculiar.
No, like in a precarious. Oh my gosh, I cannot say the word.
Precarious.
But precarious. Thank you. Way. At that time, leaving him in charge of all that, it could bring a lot of trouble to him. Where did they go? Why is there no trace of them? And you have all their money, their house, their bank accounts.
Right. And especially with the funny buggers knowing that all of this, he's easy to find.
Yes. So that bothered me. And then I started seeing a pattern. And then when I realized, okay, they're going to introduce Cunningham and Elsbeth, and they're going to introduce that home timeline. They're going to expect people to figure out that Mike Callahan and Ezekiel Richardson are the same person, but they're leaving out arguably one of the most important native storylines, which I know this seems like one chapter and it's so insignificant, but it's not, because this is where Claire comes into her power.
Right.
And then this is the man who arguably saves Jamie's life and warns him about the militia.
All right, so here's a thought. Now, do you remember I don't remember the excerpt from Diana recently. Elsbeth is in it, correct?
Yes. So
okay, so was there enough there that you could figure out that they were back on the ridge?
No. So I think what it seemed like is there was echoes of her. She was still, so Germain and Jemmy were having a conversation, and they were saying that Elsbeth told them that they were rotten, stubborn boys or something along those lines.
Okay,
and so someone wrote in the comments to Diana and said, I thought they went back to Europe. Why is she still on the ridge? And Diana wrote something, curious, isn't it? Maybe her impact is still being felt, or maybe something more, something along those lines.
Right,
and I thought to myself, go ahead. Why is she still being brought up in book 10? Because they should be gone and have moved on at this point.
right, and not know anything more about them. Like, but so here's my question with that. Do you think, and what's the daughter's name again?
Agnes.
Agnes. Do you think Agnes could be related to Claire?
Sure, I think anybody could be related to Claire, honestly. I
um,
mean, I think crazy things. I think Fanny and Germain are gonna get
yeah,
married, and that's gonna
yeah.
lead to Claire. I'm convinced of it. I don't know, but I just
It's
feel
just funny. She goes back to England and she's pregnant, and we still have to figure out if we still have to figure out the lineage of how Claire gets back to England to be born.
well, unless she comes from Amelie, and
Mm-hmm.
oh, you mean
Yes,
how she gets?
agreed.
Yeah, but also, I yeah, that's a good point because she has to be born over there
Right. So
but with the Beecham name.
right. So like
We are so
anything.
far off. We are so far off on a tangent.
I hope you
Welcome.
guys enjoy this part. This is late night texting too. So that's the worst part is that it
It's
just
so
never
true.
stops.
My
But
husband will
look,
come home and be like, "Are you on the phone with Jenny again?" Yes.
yes, just go away. It's all good. Um, yeah, I mean, any of this could lead. Wouldn't that be interesting though? The
Carrying.
baby that she saves could be a direct relation. So here's the thing. All right, so Jermaine and what's his face, Jemmy,
Jemmy.
are like 10
They're like
at
12,
this point.
13, I think, at this point.
Well, he can't. Jemmy can't fight yet. How old are they supposed to be when they fight? 13. So maybe
So he's
Jermaine's
probably
older.
11, 11,
All
12.
right.
Yeah.
So an 11-year age difference wouldn't be a big deal. It's still not even a big deal today for maybe one of them to marry the breech baby. Like
I never thought of that. I
that
just
just came to me.
but that's what I'm saying is this is I think the whole point of what we're trying to say and why we want to talk about these characters is because the story is so much richer. And I get it. They have 10 episodes. What are they going to introduce? The 800 characters that are in this book?
Right.
This book has so many characters that I
Yes.
can't even tell you. It talks about the Comte Saint-Germain, it talks about Blackjack Randall, it talks about
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
but
And I feel like we tend to get stuck in, because of the show, I feel like we tend to get stuck in earlier characters because they were a big presence on the screen. Like,
sure, but these are
and
big presence in
these
the
are,
books.
that's what I'm saying. Like, we need to kind of really break
So
apart like seven,
I
eight, and
think
nine.
I think that's the kind of what we're trying to, and we're basically at our time anyway. So I guess this is kind of what I'm gonna say is for the podcast, we try to obviously it's no secret that Liz and Katie they're on books 3 and 5.
No, four and six.
4. Okay, they're on books 4 and 6. So they the episodes that they're in with us, we can't talk about the later characters. However, my dream for this podcast when I started this podcast is that I wanted to really bring the books to life for people. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
Jenny and I do episodes, and there's going to be a lot more of book heavy episodes, particularly coming up into season 8, because we want to give that experience and we want to dive into the real theories and the real themes of the books because the show is a love story. Let's be honest. It's focused on Jamie
Right.
and Claire and everything else is secondary, but these books are so rich with deep stories. I mean, there's probably two or three very tragic deaths in this book that I think will just be left out.
And it's such a shame because, like I said, when I saw Amy Higgins on the thing, I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh you're an idiot! It's not coming." And like that's a
yeah,
really important storyline for Roger coming
yep.
into his place and really feeling like I found my calling. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's a shame. Why did they do that to that freaking
You
character?
just so you guys know, we beg Liz and Katie, like, please just let us give you the spoilers, but they want to have the authentic experience of reading it themselves. But book 10 is
Yeah.
getting ready to be here, so we just keep reading and reading and reading. We hope they get to book 10 by the time book 10 gets out so we can all read it together and do episodes together.
Yeah.
That's our hope. But I didn't mean to make that sound any kind of negative way. So when we do, if you're wondering why we do episodes with earlier characters, it's kind of, we rotate book, show, book, show, book, show, book, show. So that being said, I do just, I think particularly for this episode, the Native American storyline is very big storyline of Outlander. I think you would agree with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even Ian's
Absolutely.
son comes back to the Ridge and lives with them. And there's that is a whole other interesting way to tie in the lineage with Todis.
Look, we don't even know if that's going to be addressed. We've seen nothing. And if you are on TikTok, I'm sure he's on other social media. The young man who plays
in the show,
Native
his
American,
name's Swiftest of Lizards, I think, in the show is his name.
Yeah, Swiftest of Lizards in the show, Todis in the book. His dad, the actor's dad, is on social media, and he has not said a word. So I don't even know if that storyline is coming back. Smudge the Blades, that's his dad's name on TikTok.
This makes me so sad because, again, this is what I'm talking about. And I said, I'm kind of making it controversial and I'm not meaning to. But
yeah, these are
Native storylines are a huge part of this story. And it's very strange to me that seems to be all the stuff that's being left out.
Yeah, it will be. And here's the thing. I really do enjoy the show. I haven't done a big rewatch in ages. I can remember watching season 1 and just being like, this is such a good show. This is so good. Season 1 was truly magical, and it's where everybody gets sucked in. At this moment, I have a very hard time getting past season 1, episode 1, because that's where it all begins. And that's where you start feeling that connection. As we're going forward and as we're seeing more writing and graphics introduced with AI, I think it's becoming problematic and it's dumbing things down. And it's a big concern for me. Well, off topic, but on topic, the guy that I talk about, Dr. Wayne Dyer, I had a CD. It could be in my storage unit. I don't know. I found the book in the house. I was like, oh my God, maybe I can find the CD. Couldn't find it. Went on Amazon to see if I could order a book. They have it that you can download it, and they didn't use his voice. They used an AI generated version. I was so mad.
Infuriating.
So mad. This man, like, look him up. He's really great. He died a few years ago, broke my heart. But yeah, this is becoming problematic. And I do think that they're kind of using some of it for writing. And we're both going into this last season kind of like holding our breath, hoping for the best, but not expecting a whole lot at this point. So we'll see what happens. But you always have us for the books, and we love giving you these insights, and we love pointing out these weird things that we find, and we hope you really enjoy them because we get so excited. Even you just watching us now stumble upon the thing with the multiple births or the breech births. Like, what does that mean? I don't know. So
we'll be researching it all night. But I kind of want to second what you just said. So for all of you listeners who may not know this, and I don't ever talk about my personal life, but here we go. I am an environmental engineer. That is what I do for a living. I quite literally study the environment and I build green facilities, green buildings. That's my whole job. Please, for the love of God, stop using AI. On top of the environmental impacts, it is also just destroying our intelligence. And I think this is a bigger conversation. I too love the Outlander show. It made me fall in love with Outlander. I had never heard of the Battle of Culloden before I read the books. It's not something we learned in the American schools. And seeing all of that play out I never understood how beautiful Scotland was. I knew nothing about the culture, and seeing the visual representation of that has been magical. I love the show. I don't want to seem that I'm always tearing it down, but I would be remiss to say that when season 5 got a new showrunner, you can't feel the difference, because yes, you can. And I think if Blood of My Blood is indicative of what we can expect for season 8, I'm going in with very low expectations. However, I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to love it. I'm going to make content. I'm going to go through the motions, but I just think for me, the books is always going to be where it is. And that's why we want to discuss it here. And that's just the way it
And look,
is.
the amount of stuff that we have picked out within the last, since starting this podcast, just think about the amount of work this woman has put into these books. And I feel it's never a pressure for us to be like, you have to read the books. We're not that way.
No.
This is why we like talking about it, because there's so much in these books and she's put such effort into it to entertain and educate that we don't want you to miss out on one little bit that we can find and give to you. So this is a whole lot of fun for us.
That was a perfect way to explain it. Yeah.
Because look, I say this all the time, I'm not a big book reader. I'm just not. If I find something that I really like, that's it. I latch onto it. So I felt that way about Harry Potter books. I liked the Twilight books. I was in my 40s at the time when they came out. But you know what? Sometimes it's just one of those things that it just gets you out of your head for the moment, and you get to escape. And feel that way with these books, and it's enjoyable. So we hope you enjoy this as much as we enjoy putting it out there.
Yes. So I will say also on one last note, anyone who read the Twilight books and said that they didn't love them is lying. They're just trying to sound cool. They're just trying to sound cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Team Edward, by the way.
Team therapy.
What's the dad? Is that what you said? Did you say the dad's name?
Team therapy. They all need therapy.
Oh yeah. Well,
but yeah,
agreed.
Team
But what's
Charlie.
the dad's name?
Charlie.
Team Charlie. Yes. At this age, I really should be Team Charlie. So we'll go
I am
with that.
Team Charlie. I am Team Charlie. So I think we're at our time for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Thanks so much for listening to us. We really enjoyed this episode. And don't forget, if you're not following us, we are on YouTube, TikTok as Outlander Unhinged. Do we have a Instagram for Outlander Unhinged as well?
We do.
Okay. So follow us there. You can find all of our socials under our same names, which is I'm the Gen X Quilt Co. Doreen's Place 2, correct?
Correct.
I don't want to forget the 2. And then we've got Listen Katie, Dinafash Sassenach, and Katie is at Katie J. And we're the same names on all of our social medias. Sorry, that was really long, but
that's okay. We wanted to get it out there. We love hearing from everybody. Absolutely. So until next time, stay Outlander Unhinged.